the real estate market in 2022, and what we can expect this year in comparison to last year. Let's get right into it. But if you're new here or if you haven't done so yet, make sure to subscribe by hitting that button right down below the video. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Let's get right into it. So whether you watch real estate closely or not, I think all of us can probably agree everybody noticed that last year real estate prices were moving significantly higher, and we all heard about the stories where there were 27 bids on a single house and it went for $25,000, $50,000, or $200,000 more than the asking price, right? Now, of course, these are just a couple examples, but I think all of us know exactly the stories that we're talking about. Whether we know somebody, a friend, a family member, an acquaintance, a neighbor, somebody like this, I think we've all heard the stories here over the last year or so, where all of these houses are bidding up so fast, and in fact, a lot of these houses are being bid up right out of the price ranges of a lot of the buyers, getting them out of reach for a lot of people. Well, as we know, according to the recent reports, last year the real estate market went up by 17%. That is a massive, massive move higher for a market that traditionally moves up only a few percentage points each and every year. Traditionally, real estate moves up about 2 to 3% a year, traditionally over long periods of time. So 17% in one single year is a huge, huge move higher when it comes to real estate. Let me quickly run through a couple statistics here because this is actually very interesting. Now, I watch a lot of markets very closely every single day. And I watch a lot of markets very closely. I watch the equity markets, stocks, I watch futures, I watch commodities, I watch the real estate, I watch precious metals, I watch a lot of different markets very closely because I want to see what's going on. And if you watch the markets, you know that everything is very highly correlated. We also have to watch the interest rate market as well, right? Because ultimately, if rates goes up, which we know that they're going to based on the talk out of the Federal Reserve, that a lot of people may start to pull back on some of their purchasing simply because nobody likes to pay higher interest, and ultimately you can't buy as much house when you're paying more in interest, right? But of course, we can talk about that in a separate video because that alone is its own topic right there. However, let me quickly talk you through some of the statistics that are coming out based on the buying trends of last year and how this is all going to translate into this year, 2022. Sorry, I'm off by a year, and what we can actually anticipate in the buying trends going forward this year. So let me lay this out for you. Last year, in 2021, 27% of the homes that were purchased were bought by investors. Now, you might be wondering, okay, but what does this really mean? Give me some actual data points to actually reference this against. Here's what we can reference. In 2019, the first 3 quarters of 2019, 17% of the homes, the single-family homes that were bought by investors. Meanwhile, in 2021, 27% of the homes, the single-family homes that were bought within the first 3 quarters of 2021 were bought by investors. So again, 10% more homes in the first 3 quarters of 2021 were bought by investors versus the 17% in the first 3 quarters of 2019. So that is a huge uptick right there. We also noticed that in 2021, last year alone, you would probably be thinking, oh, it's the banks, it's the institutions, it's Wall Street, it's all of these guys that are coming in, buying up these big houses and buying up all the houses out there right now, right? Well, not necessarily. In fact, according to the research and all of the recent reports, 43% of the single-family homes that were bought last year in 2021 were actually bought by small investors with 9 or less properties. So again, mostly the smaller people buying these homes up last year, 43%. However, that still leads 57% of the other investors who have either more than 9 properties or they are the institutional investors, right? The guys out there with the deep pockets, almost endless pockets, with billions and billions of dollars that they can allocate toward buying single-family homes. And a lot of times when it comes to bidding these houses up, again, you see this all the time. When does a house sell for asking price anymore? Pretty much never, right? It almost never sells for asking price anymore. There's almost multiple bids every single time, and it usually goes to the highest bidder with usually a lot of times is a cash offer. Well, it's kind of hard to compete with that. especially if somebody has a limited budget and they're dealing with a mortgage, which a lot of times it takes a lot longer to close a property when you're buying with a mortgage versus a cash offer. Cash offers can typically close very, very fast, right? Usually 10, 14, maybe 20 days at the most, but usually it closes very fast, whereas a traditional mortgage sale is usually 30, 45 days, maybe 60 days. So yeah, obviously the sellers want their cash, they want it now, and they're going to take that higher offer that a lot of times is cash, or maybe even just a slightly smaller offer, but yet at the same time, if they can close a month earlier, that seems to be very appealing to a lot of people, the sellers. So very interesting stuff going forward. However, now we want to know, based on this information and based on everything going out there right now, how does this actually translate into inventory going forward and the purchasing prices going forward as far as in 2022? Well, first off, we need to look at the supply and demand equation, because remember, all prices are indicated by supply and demand. How much demand and how much supply is on the market? Well, according to the recent reports, again, there's 40% less supply, as in houses for sale on the market right now as a whole across the country in comparison to late 2019. So 2019, early 2020, prior to the whole COVID situation, there's 40% less supply or inventory on the market right now for sale than there was about 2 years ago. That's huge, which means with the influx of buyers, as in there's a lot of buyers, demand out there right now for the same amount or even 40% less homes, that just tends to lead toward more bids, right? A lot more offers, a lot more people coming in, bidding these houses up, therefore driving the prices significantly higher, and unfortunately pricing a lot of people right out of the market because they just can't keep up with that, right? Not only that, if a house is bid up, that means that you need to come up with a bigger monthly payment, a higher down payment, and you would ultimately need to qualify for a higher mortgage. A lot of things that a lot of people can't qualify for, right? The bigger down payment, the bigger monthly payments, and ultimately just everything, right? So yeah, it kind of tends to, unfortunately, hurt the smaller person out there trying to buy a house. However, when it comes to 2022, here's what they're saying for this year. Once again, it looks like real estate prices are likely going to move up by anywhere between 16 and 18% once again this year. So right down the middle there, like I said, in 2021, real estate moved up by 17%. So basically, they straddled it by saying between 16 and 18%, according to the recent reports, again this year. So it's going to be another tough market for buyers this year. However, if you're a seller of real estate, wow, I mean, seriously, pull out your rake because you're going to be raking in the cash this year once again. So unfortunately, this is kind of the situation that we're in right now, because it's simply a supply and demand imbalance. Now, as I've been doing some research on this, I've been wondering, why is there such a lack of supply out there right now? Simply, a lot of people that own their real estate right now, their homes, they're saying, hey, I'm going to hang tight. This market continues to rip higher. I'm going to keep riding this train off into the sunset because this thing is continuing to move so much higher. Why would I sell now? I'm going to keep riding this thing. Well, as we all know, all good things must come to an end at some point, but it's likely that this market will normalize to some degree at some point, but when is that going to be? 2023, 2024, 2025? I mean, seriously, at what year is this market going to normalize? Yeah, unfortunately, it may be quite a while now. Again, we got to continue watching everything very closely, but yeah, certainly some very interesting things. Interestingly enough, yesterday I had a video out for you, and I was talking about the impending implosion of the everything bubble. Well, in that video, I laid out very clearly, I said, hey, I think that everything is basically going to crash except for a few things, commodities and real estate. I think real estate, based on everything that I look at and all the years that I've been watching markets, by the way, I've been watching all the markets very, very closely since 2008. That's when I really got into the market and started watching it very, very closely. And I literally look at everything all day, every single day. Well, let's be real, not all day, but every single day I'm looking at all the different markets. And over this long period of time, we've seen a lot of different things happen. And with all that being said, with all the experience that I've had and everything watching, honestly, I think stocks, equities, assets, things like that, they're basically down the tubes. For everything that I can say, This thing is pretty much about to roll over. I mean, it's already starting, but you can watch that video from yesterday if you want. But when it comes to real estate, honestly, I don't think real estate's going really anywhere. Realistically, if it does anything, it's probably going to plateau, maybe go down a teeny tiny bit, but pretty much that's just going to be a minor correction before this thing just rips higher once again. So if you ever look at charts, like a line chart or anything like that, if you ever look at an uptrend, I mean, obviously everybody knows what a chart looks like. You can just simply look at an uptrend, and it's just literally the same thing, right? The chart goes up, it kind of dips back down a little bit, a small correction, and then it rips higher once again. Just a classic uptrend. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that at all happen once again in 2022 with real estate. It may dip for a little tiny bit, but honestly, we're starting to move into the spring buying season already. Yes, even now, from everything I'm watching, even the listings in my area that I look at all the time are starting to pick up just a ton over the last month. So yeah, there's a lot more houses starting to hit the market now because we're getting into that critical time where a lot of people are going to start getting out there, starting to kick some tires when it comes to real estate. And yep, the spring time, as we know, depending on where you are in the country, but again, the spring market is by far the hottest market. And generally, again, it could vary a little bit region by region, but in general, usually about mid-November through about mid-January time is usually the slowest time of year. But now that we're out of that, yeah, it's going to start getting pretty hot here once again. Buyers are going to be out. Sellers are going to be anxious to get their house on the market. And once again, there's going to be that supply and demand imbalance. Therefore, way more buyers, way more cash chasing way less houses, therefore driving that price significantly higher. So this is just the market we're in. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about it other than either jump in and get in on something or sit on the sidelines, wait for this thing to cool down a little bit. But again, it could be years before that happens. It could certainly be a couple years. So again, kind of got to pick your poison, right? Whether you jump in now and potentially buy the top of the market, or whether you sit on the sidelines and potentially miss out on something and ultimately need to pick out something maybe even more expensive for this same exact product, maybe in 5 months, 6 months, a year, something like that. So yeah, it's a real thing. But anyway, this is what we're seeing based on everything that's going on right here, right now. So hope you're having a nice day. Thanks so much for watching this. Subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet, and feel free to share this video with your friends, family, and social media, and I'll catch you again later in the next video. Thanks again. I'll see you soon.